Now, we celebrated Earth Day this week, observed around the world to remember the environment that surrounds and sustains us and the pressing challenges we face. As the world aims to make a green recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, many countries are working to reshape their industrial landscapes, living spaces and transportation to make them sustainable for our planet and our future generations. The United States administration has recently announced a $2 trillion plan to build resilience against a variety of economic, social and climate-related challenges. It's a plan of unprecedented ambition and scale for the American nation, but for years, activists and politicians have been advocating for such changes. And today we speak with California Senator Robert Hertzberg, who has long been campaigning for sustainability and for the protection of civic rights. Now, elected to the State Assembly in 1996, Mr. Hertzberg has since been the architect behind some of California's most successful programs to cut carbon, revamp infrastructure, rebuild education and empower all social groups. Hello, Senator. It's great to have you on our show. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great, and thank you so kindly. I appreciate it, and I think that this is a show that shows the connectivity of all of us on this very small planet.
Indeed, although I would love to be on the other side in California with your sunny conditions. But, well, a lot of sun there in California, and you've been calling for alternative energy, affordable housing, clean drinking water and better educations since the beginning of your political career. And you achieved success with steps towards a sustainable future for California. What do you then make of this $2 trillion plan that Mr. Biden's office announced last week? Do you think it's ambitious enough?
Yes. In addition to, well, if you just start for a minute, first of all, California's economy is booming. We have a huge surplus, and we're going to use a lot of that money from California as a result of the growth of the economy, even in this pandemic time, to invest in infrastructure, green infrastructure, broadband, all sorts of things that are important to those goals. Second, the president and the Congress in the United States put out a $1.9 trillion plan, of which $151 billion comes to California. Again, a lot of that provides opportunity for more of this investment. And then third, the point that you ask on this $2 trillion investment, it is transformational. There's no blueprint on this before, maybe except in our country when Franklin Roosevelt was president. And we have to be smart about how we invest it and really try to be a catalyst for investment. And I think there'll be a lot of opportunities. There's unbelievable relationships between South Korea and the United States, particularly California. I've been there many times, and we just built a big tower with Korean Airlines in downtown Los Angeles. And I think there's great opportunities for all of us, and there's a shared values in terms of this level of a green economy for all of us. I've seen it in your country.
And, well, you've been advocating infrastructural and environmental policies for years and years, and I imagine that the journey has been an incredibly tough one, given all the political...
I'm not that old. It can't be that long. Years and years.
Right, just a few years then. But I'm sure you've seen a lot of bickering and fights in your time. And, well, how challenging do you think it's going to be to really push through this $2 trillion plan through Congress?
Hard. Okay, get a life, go to work. I'm sure your parents told you the same thing. That's why you're sitting on that set today, as being someone as popular as you are. Don't bellyache about it. Put on your working clothes and go to work. Of course it's hard, but it doesn't mean it's not valuable. And I suspect there'll be some modifications. The thing about Biden is he's been around a long time. He knows how to negotiate. And so it might not be as big, but even if it isn't, it's still going to be gigantic. There's no other way around it. I mean, when you say like two, it seems like a small word, but it's followed by the word trillion, which is a very big number.
It blows it out of proportion, really. And well, yeah. It's a big change, a drastic change in US policy, because, well, for the last 4 years, you've had presidents who's denied that global warming exists. But of course, his denial hasn't exactly stopped the forces of global warming, and the impact of climate change has continued to progress. How serious is the issue right now? I mean, how are these environmental challenges affecting society and the quality of life?
Well, I think you only need to go, and whether it's, if your listeners in all parts of the world that are listening to this now, look at the next generation. They're really worried about this stuff in terms of their future. And I don't blame them. It's a serious, serious problem. And let's assume that we're wrong. And we transfer to electricity and we transfer away from carbon fuels. Okay, what if we're right? We need to get it right, the consequences to humanity in all parts of the globe. You know, we as human beings form these governments, and we have cities and states and counties and countries. But the globe is one place, and the pollution from one part of the earth to the other part of the earth affects us all, and we have to think globally. That's why these relationships are so important. That's why I've traveled many times to your country and other parts of the world to build those kinds of relationships. So it's a very big deal, and I think it's going to have very significant economic impacts across the globe. Many companies in South Korea and other parts of the world are doing incredible things in the green space, and it's having a really both a benefit to the environment, but also a benefit to economies.
And how has outdated infrastructure and a lack of access to very critical public services affected communities very disproportionately?
Well, there's two things. You know, as I've traveled the world, one goes to China and you see all the brand new airports. You have a number of new airports. Japan has a number of new airports. A lot of the airports that we have in the United States were built many years ago, and they're also in city centers where there's all sorts of challenges. And so we need to really, you know, reinvent ourselves. We need to start working on that stuff. It doesn't last forever. Streets don't last forever. Bridges don't last forever. And so when we were on the forefront of things many years ago in the United States, now a lot of that infrastructure is old and needs to be replaced. The economic activity as a result of it. There's a number of Korean firms, by the way, that are involved in a lot of infrastructure development here in California that we've hired on public works projects. So it's really, really important that we upgrade it. And more importantly, in communities that are more challenged, where they have freeways going through them, where there's certain communities where there's various other aspects of environmental justice issues that are affected, it's critically important. So, you know, look, the idea for all of us in our democratic societies are we continually rethink, we continually course correct, we continually improve. We don't judge it. We just get better, we learn, we grow, and that's what we need to be doing now.
Well, California is, of course, one of the most diverse states in America, if not the most. And, well, what efforts do you think are needed to really ensure that minority groups and underserved groups across all of America aren't left behind as the nation tries to move forward?
Well, we're doing that. If you were to be, when you come to California next, I know you were only here when you were 9 months old, but next time you come, you should come to the state legislature and watch. The level of discussions that we have in our government are extraordinary in terms of protecting underserved, in trying to create a fair and just system of government. I'm just finishing a book that I'm writing called actually Course Correction, Revising the Social Contract in California. And what I'm looking at is this big problem of the rich-poor divide that also is all around, and the listeners here listening to this around the world, it's a significant problem. We have to really think through, all of us need to do this, to be able to make sure there's better opportunities for people who are poor, whether it's through home ownership instead of being renters, whether it's, you know, student loans for kids getting out of schools. You know, there's a whole host of things that we're looking at here in California. We just put out a big budget proposal today, and it's completely informed by creating a more just and equitable society. It is important for all of us.
And well, it looks like Mr. Biden's going to go quite big on electric vehicles, and California has received a lot of global attention because it's really leading in terms of sales and market growth in terms of electric vehicles in America, possibly across the world as well. How did you manage to encourage drivers to actually go electric, and what kind of outcomes have you seen in public health spending as a result of all these policies?
Money, real simple. You know, I don't mean to be so fancy, but if you bought an electric car, we gave you a $7,500 tax credit. So if you leased it, for 3 years, that's $7,500, dramatically reduced the cost. Second, we created, you know, like you have in Seoul, we got traffic, unfortunately. And so we created a special lane where you could, if you had an electric car, you can get outside the traffic and travel in that lane, and you have a sticker on your car. So we've done those kinds of things. We've given other kinds of tax incentives to Elon Musk at Tesla and other things to deal with it. We're now spending a bunch of money, in addition to what the federal government's doing, to put in charging stations everywhere and really try to, build that infrastructure and to create the incentives for people to drive electric.
Right, really making it accessible. And also another thing you've been working for is water issues. Well, you've been working on water issues for a long time, and you introduced the Drought Resilient Communities Act. Can you tell us what you've achieved with that and what you think is really crucial to allowing now all Americans to enjoy access to clean water, one of the goals of this new infrastructure plan?
Boy, your producers are doing their homework. That's pretty amazing. All the way across the globe, someone knows about that act. That's funny. I'm joking, but no, I wrote my dissertation on water years ago. The thing about California, just 2 points I want to make that are important, that are interesting, because California is such a fun and interesting place, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have been here, viewers have been here, is that it's really interesting. Southern California has no water. So what we do is we build a big canal from the Colorado River, and we bring in water that direction. And then we go and we build canals from Northern California and bring in water in Southern California, because a big part of the population is in Los Angeles, Koreatown in Los Angeles, one of the largest populations outside of Seoul, outside of all of South Korea that we have, that actually I used to live in and represented the Korean Times and Korean Grocers Association, and had the first Korean-speaking lawyer in my office many, many years ago. But the point is that that's what we've done. So we need to be smarter and more resilient about how we do this. Taking water instead of putting in the ocean, recharge the groundwater. Now we have a drought where we only are allocating in the farmers 5% of their allocation. So this act is all about, and what we've done a couple of years ago is conservation in the agricultural communities, conservation in cities, and really trying to be smart about how we use water, because it is so precious. There's one of these old sayings here in the United States that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting over. And that has really been the case. I've been dealing with this for, 45 years or so, and it's been an unbelievable issue, and there's nothing more important to all of us than water.
And you definitely have very strong connections to the Korean community and South Korea itself. And you served as chair of the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation in 2004 and 2011. And that's the largest economic development agency in the country. So very significant role. And you've led trade missions there to East Asia, and that would include South Korea, Japan, and China, to really facilitate bilateral investment and trade opportunities. You've mentioned a couple of areas where we could collaborate, but which industries do you think are really promising, and what strengths do you think we can really put together from both ends?
I've been to Korea many, many times. I think the first time I was there was in '86, which I suspect you weren't 9 months old then. But the point is that I've been there many times and done a lot of business there, and also as both leading delegations as Speaker of the Legislature, as well as delegations as the chairman of the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation and the LA World Trade Center, Trade Council. And actually we went and met with Chairman Cho, who unfortunately passed away, from Korean Airlines, his son Walter, and he built this extraordinary, the tallest building in downtown Los Angeles. When you come here, you got to come to it. He just did a fantastic job. It's really a fun place with I think it's 73rd floors where you check in, and there's a bar up at the top. It's really a lot of fun. And so, but look, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for investment. The size of the community, the Korean American community here, is nothing less extraordinary. There's a lot of opportunities as big Korean banks, Korean insurance, but also in the green energy space and construction, a lot of this infrastructure. The opportunities are nothing less than extraordinary. The relationships are incredible. And, we really spend a lot of time together, and with the consul generals and with so many other people in the business community, the religious community, and the like. So I'm bullish on Korea. I'm bullish in terms of the region, how important it is for President Biden and his Secretary of State to really bolster relationships. I think given the challenges that are faced in the region, it's critically important. So, I'm on this call today as this majority leader of the California Senate because I believe in this relationship, and I think it's really important.
Well, I myself would love to visit California, as you have suggested, and really
You have an
look at all
invitation.
these changes and see the Teslas, try the hamburgers, and also go to K-Town, because if the rumors are true, the Korean food there is better than it is here in South Korea. So my last question to you, really, do you have any favorite Korean foods or anything you like to?
Barbecue. Yeah, Korean barbecue. It's incredible. But my father's law office, who was a lawyer for many, many years, was in K-Town. And I lived right in the middle of K-Town. But when I started there, I think K-Town was like 60,000. Now it's like 450,000 folks. It's gotten really huge. I'm telling you, we were very involved with the community. It's a lot of fun. People are very gracious and very kind. And it's a real asset to the city of Los Angeles. I actually ran for mayor of Los Angeles 16 years ago and lost by just a smidgen, a handful of votes. But and the Korean community was very, very supportive of my effort for mayor. I've got these, Koreans for Hertzberg signs. It's kind of fun.
Well, it's really encouraging to hear about all these efforts to really rebuild societies, make them more resilient to all these challenges we face, and to be going global with it as well, as California has. And well, I'm afraid we're out of time today, but we really appreciate you joining us on our show. This was Senator Robert Hertzberg, Majority Leader in the California State Senate. Again, thank you very much for your insights today.
Come to California.
We will try after the pandemic is over. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, as always, thank you very much for watching.